All right, everybody, it is that time again. It is that time of month where something magical happens. Two people from the Angular team come together with the fantastic, outstanding, outlandishly amazing community to do a live stream where we answer your questions. Sometimes we write some code, but most of all, we have a good time. If you are here to have a good time, you got to put some, let's see, what's a good time emoji for today? Let's put some stars in the chat if you're here to have a good time. That's what I care about. Put some stars in the chat if you're here to have a good time, because I'm here with somebody. I'm here with somebody who's super busy, but he's making time for the people. I'm here with somebody who is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. I'm here with somebody who has impeccable taste, and I've learned to trust their taste. I'm here with the one, the only, our magnanimous leader, Jeremy Elbourn. Jeremy, how are you doing?
Mark went live while I was still chewing a bite of my peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Deeply rude.
That's right. I told him. I said, I'm going to go live. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. Don't you worry about it. Yeah. Welcome, Jeremy. How are you feeling this week?
Like every week, there's a lot going on.
Always, right?
We're really barreling down the highway to V21.
Right? Isn't that something? But it's happening. Speaking of V21, Signal forms of V21 next too. Very nice. What's up, Lars?
Yeah, it's merged into main now, which is a really big milestone.
Jacques says, I wanted Signal forms 5 years ago. I hear you, but we didn't have signals 5 years ago.
Yeah, like 5 years ago, we were just like barely finishing Ivy.
It's true. What does it say? I looked into the code of Signal form, but I didn't find any part of it related to using Zod. Yep, and other libraries like this as a schema validator.
Yeah, I mean, there will be documentation for all of these things when it's actually released and as part of V21.
And let's be fair, friends. Do you go into the kitchen when somebody's making a cake and then you're looking at the dough just because the pan is filled and you can see the form of the cake? But you could dip your finger in there and you could taste the sweetness, but you're not supposed to eat it yet. All right. Give us some time. We're working on it. And we're actually working. Hey, and hi, by the way. Hello. Good to see you. Are there any plans for the resource API to replace the use of HTTP client and post delete patch methods? That's interesting.
I think still to be determined. I think we don't yet have a plan for what the kind of resource-based approach to doing mutation methods is going to be, because HTTP resource, as this alludes to, is really only meant for making GET requests, or perhaps post requests for reading data in cases where GET doesn't work for that because the GET URL is not long enough. Yeah, TBD. We don't have an answer on that one yet.
I got an answer from Michael Small. The answer is yes, you are still awesome, and we're glad to have you. Hello. Good to have you in the building. What's up, Ole? In the building. The Jason crew is here. Who's the Jason crew? The Argonauts. Who are you calling an Argonaut? What's up, Pavan? Good to see you. Let's see. We got a lot of people here. Hey, I love Angular. 4 years and counting. Let's go, Nostalgia. Well, we're so glad that you're here. Oh, let's go. Michael Small put the stars in there. Okay. Think, create, share, grow. Oh, what's up? You've been around before. I remember this handle. Good to see you, Alcatraz. One. What up? What up? What's up, Joe? Good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see. Hi, guys. Hello. Wait, what? What are you saying, Pavan? It's 2025. Why don't we have clear icon and drop down buttons for Matte Autocomplete? I don't know.
Matte Autocomplete is mostly based on the material design spec. So any of the design choices that are part of it are probably because they were that way in the material design spec. Yeah. But it's also, right, like it's an autocomplete and not a select. And so that is probably a big part of it too.
How about this? Signal forms are awesome. Thanks, Alex. What's up, Logan? Good to see you. Evgeny, what's going on with the sunglasses? Let's see. Looking at the new Angular signal form, do you think it has potential to replace reactive forms in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, part of the design intent to signal forms is to give people like one unified form system that gives you kind of the reactivity of reactive forms, which were not like all that reactive, um, and still kind of like it's not the same developer experience as template-based forms, right? Like the template-driven forms, they have their own kind of issue, right? Like it's we don't need to get into it, right? But there are problems with using your template as the source of truth for your form structure. Generally, you want the flow of data and state in your application to go such that your template is the output, right? Like everything flows into the template, which then turns into DOM. And it kind of creates some weirdness if you're using your template to define your state or your form structure, which is kind of this circuitous dependency in your like data flow. And so our intent is that like over the long run, signal forms becomes like the way of doing forms in Angular. We don't have any concrete plans about like deprecating or deleting the original form systems because so many applications would be depending on them, and it would be a lot of work to switch. Even though there's going to be interoperability between the two. But yeah, that's kind of the plan in the long run.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to say something real quick, Jeremy. This is a discussion point that I think is fascinating to me. I love Angular in general. I just do. And so I've been working on a mobile app with Angular and NativeScript. And one of the things that I noticed was that for one of the list views, you're going to like list a whole bunch of stuff, right? In any mobile app, you have this idea of a list view. The NativeScript implementation with Angular, you have to use a ngTemplate and to like say, okay, this is what, when you do render, what your template for each item will look like, right? And I was just like, man, that's really cool that we support that. But then what became even cooler to me after that was that like our for like syntax and if syntax all support the same like things that it did when we had to use the directives of ng-for and ngIf, and then people didn't have to worry about any changes in their code. Because it seems like when you first glance, it's like, oh, it's just another iterator. But there's so much like legacy, like interop that has to still work when you make such a significant change. And so just big shout out to the Angular team. And I'm not saying to myself, I'm just saying to the engineers who worked on like the for, the if, because developers were using, the ngIf, just to get a secondary block with the ngTemplate. You know what I mean? They're doing all these like hacks. And we're like, nope, here's a better way to do it. And it's easier. And it's going to work with all the old stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, a good example of this is like the if block supports an alias, right? So you can say like if some long expression, and then you can say as, and then like some variable name and like alias that whole condition into a variable. And the only reason that's there is for backwards compatibility because ngIf let you do that. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have added it since we have this let syntax and template now. So, we'll always do what we can to keep things backwards compatible whenever we can.
Yeah, no, it's great. I just love it. I really do love it. Let's see. Template forms are so easy, just like the boilerplate madness of other frameworks when doing form validation. Okay. All right. Appreciate that feedback. Harshu says, what are best practices you recommend for optimizing performance in large-scale Angular apps, especially around SSR, hydration, late loading? Yeah, do all those things.
The best,
yeah.
I'm going to tell you a not so secret of like, what is the number one best thing you can do for optimizing performance in your app? Every time, no matter what you're working on, the number one best thing you can do for performance is to profile it, find the part that's slow, and make that part less slow. And so it's really getting in Chrome DevTools, pulling up the performance panel, looking at that flame chart, and figuring out where are the milliseconds going.
And not only that, I just want to jump in real quick. Not only should you do exactly that, but take it a step further. Use our new, recently released custom performance panel. We have a custom track that even goes into your code, color codes everything, tells you even at the component level where your time is going. So we're giving you the tools to make this happen.
Yep. Because it's not it's not particularly practical to be like, I'm going to go optimize Angular change detection performance when you pull up your profiler and you figure out, oh, actually, my biggest performance bottleneck is this 3 megabyte image I'm loading at the top of the page, right?
Right.
There's no one size fits all solution for like how to make my app faster, other than get in the dev tools, look at that flame chart, where are those milliseconds going, and let's start bringing them down. And it can be many different things, right? Like as you learn more and more about web performance, you start like sticking with, picking up some practices, and you can apply those proactively, right? Like you want to keep your bundle size down, and you can do that by like adding defer blocks and dynamically loading code with dynamic imports. You can, keep your CSS size down. Don't load styles until you need them. Although, with components, a lot of that happens automatically. You can use the ng optimized image directive, right? That will help you make sure you're following all the best practices for loading images, and especially using kind of static resource CDNs for loading those images. When it comes to things like you mentioned here, like SSR hydration, like you would want to look at those if you've, there's maybe some lower hanging fruit. Maybe you've resolved that lower hanging fruit, and you want to say, okay, like I'm seeing there's, some number of milliseconds before my user is seeing anything on the page. Like if I'm doing just client side rendering, then like, yeah, there's going to be a higher latency until the user can actually start seeing things on the page, because they have to wait for that JavaScript to download and for the rendering to happen. Whereas if you do server-side rendering, you're cutting that time down, and then the hydration is just there to support the server-side rendering. And so it's something that, if you're starting a new project, definitely start with it. But if you're starting with some existing project that's just doing client-side rendering, like look for what your lowest hanging fruit is, go after that, and then start reaching for these things once you get to the point where that is your next biggest batch of milliseconds you want to bring down. And as for lazy loading, the defer block is really going to be really valuable here. We've seen, I won't name which product it is, but there's one Google product that was able to reduce their JavaScript bundle size for their like initial download by 25% by applying 4 strategically placed defer blocks. And so it can have really big impact on your JavaScript bundle size to like get those defer blocks in the right place for the things that aren't on that critical path for your initial page load.
Look at that. Friends, I guess I have a question for you. So here's what we're doing. We're hanging out in September 2025 stream, but I want to know, does anybody know what's happening in just like 11 days? Can somebody tell me what's happening in 11 days? Anybody? Any guesses? Anybody know about it? Put it in the chat.
How do you do a little banner like that? Can I make a little banner?
You can. You can make some banners. Wait, no, not the updates. Don't ask more questions. Answer my question. We can't move on. That's a good guess. Okay, this is a good guess. Angular 21 release. Not quite, Bruno. Thank you for the guess. Okay, here we go. The AI event. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. All right, Angular plus AI. Let me show you something, friends. Let me show you something. Look, check this out. You can explore the world of possibilities with Angular and AI. And at this event, we're going to spend a lot of time just talking and giving key updates, showing demos. It's going to be really fun. I'll be your host for the event. I mean, people like, yeah, big surprise, Mark. Of course you are, right? I'm going to be the host for the event, but it's not what you think. I bet you have some ideas about what we're going to talk about, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be some really cool stuff. Like I said, it's going to be live demos. We got some special guests coming onto the show. The show will be live, so you'll be able to interact with us, engage with us, ask questions. So definitely you want to mark your calendars for the date. Let me put that date back on the screen real quick. Yeah, we want to explore the possibilities with AI and Angular. So very, very exciting. Really can't wait. Been working really hard on that. Yeah. Okay. Friends, come and hang out. Definitely come and hang out. And I'll be talking about this more and more all throughout the day. All right. So there's a lot of stuff that happened this week. or that we launched this week. A lot of cool stuff happened. One very cool thing, Jeremy. One very cool thing was we launched our AI Studio, Google AI Studio support.
That's
We
right.
landed that. That's incredible. I kind of want to show a demo, but I'm not. But I think I want to save it. Save it for the event. Maybe so. Maybe so. I don't know. But we got that going on. We did the summer update blog. Here, I got to show you something because, I know everybody's familiar with our friend Minko Getchev, and Minko is, legendary with us because he usually will write a blog and it'll be like 30 pages of updates. And so this one is not 30 pages, but so excited to share just a lot of things that we were able to launch this week. Let's add let's see if we can add this to the stream here. And I'm queuing up your questions. Don't worry, queuing up your questions. All right, so we're in the summer update blog written by myself and Jens Kulos from the Angular team. Very fantastic. I'm gonna zoom in so people can see what we got going on. But a lot of stuff was happened over the summer. Some of the highlights that I think are really cool. Zoneless, Jeremy, production ready. That's huge.
Big. Like that's something we've been working for a long time.
Not only that, it's production ready, and we released it in a minor.
Yeah, it is funny though that we say production ready because we've actually been doing it in production for over a year.
That's right.
We have kind of our own like scaffolding and like server infrastructure for Angular apps inside of Google, and Zoneless has been the default for that since last August.
But we like to make sure that a lot of, we can always tell you folks this, a lot of the changes, all the changes that we make, they get run through their paces with thousands of apps here at Google, and we get feedback early about things that are working or not working, or like things need to change. What else is there to be excited about? I know people care about MCP servers right now. We got our MCP server experimental version coming up, and where that's available, you can use that. The animate. So we showed a preview of this last month in the stream, but now it's out there for you to try. I think that's really cool. The animate elements enter and leave for the DOM. Here's something fun, Jeremy. Remember when we discovered you were coding, so you discovered the bug where if you were using it in the if-else statement, sometimes you would have duplicate elements.
Yep.
We surfaced that bug to Jessica Janik on the Angular team. She fixed it.
Yeah, we fixed the bug before the release went out, I think.
Yeah, we fixed it.
That's what RCs are for.
Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, the signals and router visualizations available in the Angular DevTools. I don't think the DevTools get enough love. I just don't think so.
Yeah, we should honestly, maybe not today, but we should just have a stream where we just like poke around in DevTools and show all the stuff it can do.
Because it can do a lot. It can do a ton. Yeah, we definitely improved the template authoring experience with some nice little things you can do here and there. And then this thing I was telling you friends about, we got our developer event coming in September. Can't wait for you friends to see what we're doing there. So Jeremy, now this blog post does not cover every single thing that came out over the summer in 20.0 and 20.1, 20.2. But what would you say is your favorite feature that we launched from this time?
Yeah, how am I supposed to pick favorites like a parent?
Pick a favorite.
I mean, Zoneless is such a big milestone, right? Like, it is genuinely something that the team has been working towards for years, right? Like, the original, reason why we even started working on signals is so that we could get to a point of Zoneless Angular and have that be a really good experience. And so, from a big picture standpoint, Zoneless is the culmination of years worth of effort.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot less flashy than a lot of other things because it, for the most part, people don't really think about zones a lot in their day-to-day of using Angular, even though it actually has this disproportionate impact on the actual like running of your application.
Yeah.
And it's just a big deal to get rid of it. But also the animations APIs are cool.
Animation APIs are cool. They simplify a lot of things. Really cool stuff. I would, if I had to pick, I would say it's a tie between Zoneless and animations for me. Reason I really like Zoneless because this is for the people. You know what I mean? Like the Angular developers who have like cut their teeth like on Angular apps where they didn't have the support have really spent a lot of time having to, I won't say suffer, but having to navigate, right? Like some of the sharp edges that surfaced over time from having to build scalable applications with zones, right? And now they don't have to spend their time doing that. And I just think that that's very, very rad for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to worry about what zones are going to do. Like, I'm looking forward to people who can remove codes where you have to run like an update in the set timeout because you're trying to like avoid the change after marked or
Mm-hmm.
all these like hacks or workarounds you have to do. And now you can just kind of focus on this stuff. But Jeremy, if you're going to go zoneless, what are some things you got to do? Like, or some like good practices?
So it's actually, I don't know if you're setting me up to answer this question, but Gabriel here asks, when you go zoneless, does the change detection strategy on a component play a role? And yes,
Yeah.
it does. And that's actually one of the things to highlight is if you do want to start moving to zoneless, then one of the things you would want to do is make sure all of your components are on push, because that is part of getting zoneless to be the way your application works is getting all of your components switched over to OnPush. And yeah, there's a bunch of things, right? Like some are more obvious than others. So you want to, for example, avoid using the ngZone APIs. There are certain things where if you're saying like ngZone run outside Angular, when you switch to zoneless, that just becomes a no op. It just runs it immediately, and like it's not going to do anything. But you do, anywhere you're doing something like ngzone.run, you probably want to get rid of that. If you are depending on there are a lot of times like code can be implicitly depending on zones for saying like change detection is going to happen when a button gets clicked or something like that. And you're not actually like updating any state or, writing any signals or anything like that, right? Like there can be situations when you just need to update code like that. We are working towards having kind of better guidance and tooling around adopting zoneless if you have an existing Angular application. Andrew Scott on the Angular team has been playing around with something in the tooling space for that. I don't necessarily want to share it just yet because it's not, it's still in the oven. But we're definitely, mindful that just having the support is only the first step, and then there's more work to be done to make it easier for people to adopt over time.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's have some fun. I want to convert this app to zoneless because I really like zoneless as an architecture, and I got an app that I've started in Firebase Studio. So I know one of the first things I got to do if I go into my app config. Wait, and let me know if this is too tiny. I can always make this bigger. Oh, I'm gonna make it bigger no matter what.
Probably want to get a little bigger.
Yeah. Okay. See, now we already have in here. This is the 20.2 app. How can I tell? How can I tell friends at home? Let me show you how I can tell. Just for our friends who may not know, I look at my packets.json here, and it'll tell me. You can see the version of Angular, right? So it's 20.2.1 for you got your stuff in there. So it's 20.2. So I should be able to do this. So if I go back to my appconfig.ts, let's close this out. First thing I want to do is I don't know. Actually, don't know what this first one does. I don't know what that is. I have to look that up. But instead of provide zone change detection, we should do provide zoneless change detection. Stop autocomplete making it made my thing want to go all weird. Zoneless. Change detection. All right, that's like we're in there. Okay, all done.
Yep.
But that's it though, right? I mean, oh, and then what's the other thing you said, Jeremy? You said we got to change it so that way my app component. So let's do my app.ts. I know I'm not using the router outlet just yet. Please hold. Please hold. But I do want to change this to be it's OnPush change detection strategy. Yeah. Strategy OnPush.
Yeah.
So I do want to do this.
And since you mentioned that, like you're touching it, Jacques asked here, will OnPush eventually become the default for zoneless apps? We should do that. I think if we haven't, it's an oversight, and we should probably update the template for new applications to do that. It may have just been something that we maybe forgot about or missed, or we should go double check that.
Yeah. What's wrong? I did do it. It is used. Why don't you like this? Did I type that wrong, Jeremy? No. I mean, I could type it all the way out like that.
What it may be is, you got your slash in place. What it may be is that Firebase Studio might not know that Angular components and directives can be self-closing like that.
It
Probably
should
an
know.
IDE thing.
It should know. It's not even as what? That's so strange. I don't know why it's not. I mean, but if that is a problem, if it doesn't go away. But anyway, so now this is a zoneless app and it's still working. But you know, how do you know that anything works in an app, right? You should be able to do stuff. So I'm just gonna do a button and then I'm gonna do like some on-click stuff or something. I just gotta type click. Right. And then I would just say, I know everyone's favorite. Everyone's favorite, you know, just do this type of stuff, right? But how can we prove to people that this is working?
I mean, you just change something and it updates and zone's not involved.
That's true. So then here, let me do this.
But see what you're doing here, right? Like this is not asynchronous really. So, you know, Angular is always known about your events.
That's true.
The real thing that like Zone was really load bearing for was asynchronous stuff, right? So if you do like a set timeout and you update,
let's do that instead. Let's do a set timeout. That's a good idea. Let me close this. Oh no!
Whoopsie.
You know what I did? I did Control or Command W to close the tab of the code editor, and then it closed my entire window, and that's annoying. I'm gonna tell them on Firebase Studio, like, hey, get this going. All right, I'm gonna share again in a second. I'm just gonna click on my thing. Yeah, but so I love this. I absolutely love this. Oh, that's pretty rad. Oh, that's lightning fast. Love that. All right, let's bring it back. Yeah, set timeout. If Gina, you're right. You're right. The Angular team is gonna be on tour. We're gonna be hanging out at some cool events coming up. Jeremy, we're gonna be at we got people going to What the Stack, Angular Connect. We'll be at ngConf. I'll be in Germany this year for NGDE. I'll be there. So if you are going to NGDE and you're like, man, I like Mark, I want to come hang out with Mark, I will be there. Jeremy, where are you going to be this fall on tour?
Later this month, I'm going to be presenting just a lightning talk at Cascadia JS here in Seattle.
Let's go.
And then I believe in November, I will be speaking at NG Poland in Warsaw.
Yeah, so we'll be at NG Poland as well. Isn't that exciting? That's super exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be the first time I've actually gone to NG Poland. Other folks on the team have usually been the ones going to that, and this year I wanted to see what the hype is about.
Okay, I'm gonna hype up all Angular conferences because they all are fantastic. I've had a fantastic time at all kind of places. I did go to NG Poland last year. They premiered the Angular documentary, and can I just tell you, friends, there was nothing like this experience. Where when they premiered the Angular documentary, they played it on a movie theater screen, like a full-size movie theater with like hundreds and hundreds of seats. And I was in there eating popcorn with all these people that I don't know, right? and I come onto a movie screen, and it was just like surreal watching myself and watching people watch me on a movie theater screen. I even took video for Jeremy. I'm like, look, you were on a movie theater screen. And I like text him like, because it's just, when is that going to happen to you? You know what I mean? Unless you're an actor or a performer of some sort. But think about just the feeling of surrealness of like, I'm in a movie theater and I'm on the screen right now. And it was just really rad. So cool. So cool.
Mark, has anybody ever just like come up to you like on the street or in a restaurant and been like, "Are you Mark Texan?"
No, it hasn't happened yet. I'm waiting for it to happen. It happens when I go to conferences that people are like, "Hey, are you Mark? Are you Mark Texan?" But it doesn't happen like randomly on the street. I have had somebody come up to me and say, "Lead, heat, tile." Well, that was fun. But they were like kind of related to the like developer community, so they kind of knew about it. But I'm not that famous where people are just like, "Oh, it's Mark." You know what I mean? Like, gotta, you know, I don't know you from anything but the internet. That's pretty great though. All right, let me get back to my example.
Yeah. We got a lot of questions about Zoneless too.
Yeah, so let's keep going. I just want to get in there. All right, so I'm not giving you any feedback. Get out of here. I don't know what that is. You get out of here. Okay, Gemini, I love you, but get out of here for a second. I said get out. There's like some weird, like sticky thing happening here. Okay, thank you. There we go. And then where's my web view? Okay, web view. We get over to this side. All right, and we'll just take you down here. Okay, so I was going back to my app. Okay, very, very cool. So I just need to, I can do a set timeout. Jeremy, what should I do my set timeout? Can I do it in my constructor? Is that fine?
You could do it in the constructor. You can do it in an event handler. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, so we could do it that way because the event is, yeah, we can do it a part of the event, right? Like I'll trigger it in the event. Sure. I can do that. And then we'll just call this, I'm going old school, friends, trigger event where I'm just
starring all the questions to answer when you're done.
Yeah, sounds great. Trigger async increment. Now, of course, I could have asked Gemini to write all of this code, but I just want to write some code for a second. I'm having a good time with this. Okay. And then we'll do our protected read only, and then we'll call it count. Count is a signal, and we'll say it's a start from 0. And then we'll do our trigger. What did I call it? Trigger event. I think I called it that. And then inside of here, we're going to do set timeout. When it pass in, blah, blah, and then we'll do this, we'll say it'll take 1 second. And then we'll say this dot count dot.
You're not doing any of the AI suggestions. You're going to hurt its feelings.
Oh, it didn't even offer me anything. Let's see. I'll give it a second. Come on. Ask me something, Gemini. Okay. If we do this dot count dot, we can do update, and then we'll get the current value. And then I am so verbose, but that's okay because there you go. And then we'll return the current value incremented. So here, let me just put this on 2 lines so that way it's not obfuscated for our friends who's watching at home. Okay, there you go. You can see what's happening. All right. So I'm gonna try to do some stuff that like helps me solidify understanding of the ideas. So if we do this, nothing happens yet, but then it's gonna do it again. Oh, look at that. And that's working. Now, yeah. Jeremy, you told the streets that it was very important to change. Well, you say very important. That's my language. That it was important to have change detection on push. What happens if I change this to not do this?
It will still work.
When does it break down?
So it's not that it doesn't work. It's that you're really not getting the full benefit of Zoneless without setting OnPush. Because OnPush is telling Angular like, hey, you don't need to worry about change detection this component except for like certain circumstances, which we don't need to get into.
Yep.
Otherwise, the like situations under which change detection is going to run for a component is still kind of more broad.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's really like a performance optimization, but if you are zoneless, there is really not a lot of reason why you wouldn't want to get OnPush. But like if you're doing all of your state updates through signals, then like it's a no-brainer to just set OnPush.
Yeah. Okay. So check this out. I want to do something else. Oh, look. Now it's respecting my. It must have just need to be like restarted or something. I don't know. Okay. I have a different question. This is not zoneless related, Jeremy, but I'm just so fascinated. Fascinated is really the wrong word, but I just, I'm learning about this new thing, new to me, right? So if I do my ng template, right, and then I can have like my content here. Let's just say P marks example here.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I get to do here, friends, is I can do let dash something, and then that can like take in a variable that when I do render the template, it's part of my context, right?
Yeah,
So
conceptually, you can think of ngTemplate as a function that produces some UI. And when you say like let something there, right? Like you like let current count on that, it's like you're defining a excuse me. It's like sorry, it's like you're defining a parameter for that function.
yeah. Oops, this should be. See, that's kind of cheating what I just did because I feel like. All right.
I mean, you're not doing anything with that template yet.
Right,
So
because I haven't told Angular to render this template yet.
yeah, what are you doing with the template?
Well, right now, I guess what I want to show. So if I go to if I make an ng container, right? Or I can do it in a div too. I could do any element.
Do it in whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean you can take that template, get a reference to it, and render it out in any sort of view container.
Yeah, I'm just do that. Let's do a div real quick, right? So I want to do this, and then I want to say to this is my ngTemplateOutlet, right? And then I have it doesn't have a name. Okay. So then I do count template right here. Count template, right? Well, why don't you like this? Oh, should this be bound? Yes. Yep. Yes. Okay, so now I don't have any values. Now I forgot the syntax to pass in a value to my template here. I'm getting to a point, but I just want to get the basic thing working.
Yeah, it's an input on ngTemplateOutlet, and I don't remember what that input's called. It's like ngTemplateOutlet context, I think, maybe.
Maybe. Let's try that.
Try, tell Gemini to do it for you.
Context, and then
okay. And then you have to pass it an object that has I think current count as the key in that object.
Oh, this is
yeah, it's a little bit verbose.
Yeah, but it's fine. Okay, so now let's see. I should be cooking with gas here because the thing I was going to get to eventually with this is I noticed that as I was exploring this and spending some time with the ng template that this is a property. So it's just like what am I doing wrong here? I know I'm doing something very easily provable here. Here, let me just look at the syntax. I was just looking at this yesterday. I guess what I was trying to get toward is I can get a part of the template, of that context, like a property. But then if I had like a property that had like a bunch of, if I had an object that had a bunch of properties, I would have to do let property 1, let property 2, let property 3. And I was like, how do I get the full context available?
I'm just putting this here without comment.
Let me see what it says. I can't even see this.
Why no dark mode, Mark? Why no dark mode?
Why do I want dark mode so bad?
Because I appreciate my eyes.
Fine. How do you turn it to dark mode?
In Firebase Studio, I have no idea.
Settings, maybe.
Oh, there's themes at the bottom. You got
themes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Color theme. Dark. There are high contrast dark mode. There you go. You can have that. Friends, listen, I've been coding for a very long time, over 20 years at this point. This dark mode thing is new. I have been scorching my eyeballs on light mode for ages, okay?
Vim users would like a word.
Yo, when I was in graduate school, we actually they taught us to use Emacs. And I thought it was so archaic and I thought it was so hard to use until I really took some time to learn more about it. and then it became like a powerhouse. You know what I mean? Like I was Command K, Command blah 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 blah. So, all right. Did anybody from the chat tell me what I did wrong? Because I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it looks like I think it looks right to me. I don't know why the count's not passing through.
Oh, somebody said, okay, I get it. Any chances updating code editor? Yes, we did it for you. Don't worry, we got you. Okay, I was trying to see if anybody else.
Oh yeah, is count a signal?
Is count a signal? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta call it.
But why? Let's see. That's what I'm gonna be honest with you. That's not super intuitive about how that works. Like, not that you have to call it, but I'm saying it's not super intuitive here.
I mean, the problem here is that the ngTemplateOutlet context is not type checked. This is just an any.
Yeah.
Which is, a legacy,
Ooh, I broke that.
baggage. You gotta call it.
No, that broke it.
It broke it? What did it do?
It just was like, heck no. So I got some things mixed up here. Let me unmix things up. Okay.
No. Oh, I see. You were trying to call it there. I was going to say call count when you pass it to current count.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. So I wasn't passing a signal here. So I thought I was passing a signal, but I'm actually passing a value.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's fine. So the current count is that. We got a property called current. Oh, that's why. Right? Shouldn't this?
Oh, yeah. It should be count. It's because it's the other way around.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like wrote it wrong. There you go.
You picked one of the confusing parts of Angular to show off, Mark.
I know, but listen, this is how we get better. This is how we improve as humans. Okay, now we should be pretty good. See, now that's awesome though. So like that's actually working.
Yes, and so to go back to your template, just to explain what's happening, because I forgot for why you're doing it at first, it's like you're saying I'm declaring a variable.
Yep.
I'm declaring basically a variable for this template called current count, and I'm getting the value from the context property called count.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Continue.
All right. We have a whole bunch of questions about Zoneless before you transition over to templates.
But before we go further, okay, we can answer some questions because the thing that I want to get to is now I got to type let name, right, equal like name here. You see? But then I don't want to. I really just want to get the full object inside my template here, my ng template that I can just, call properties on the object. That's what I want to do. But we can come back to that. Let's answer some questions.
Yeah. So I've started a bunch of these.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to focus on the zoneless ones first, since we were just talking about that. So Mika here asks, how does the zoneless approach change the architecture of web applications and what challenges these changes pose for developers? And so, yeah, we can talk more generally about like what even is zones and why was like going zoneless something that mattered for Angular. And so the original idea behind the way Angular's like DOM updating and change detection worked is that it used this library called Zone.js that let Angular know whenever something asynchronous happened. And so it did this by going and patching all of the native browser APIs that could do something asynchronous. That's set timeout, that's promise.then, that's add event listener, and a dozen or more other things. All of these can like do some asynchronous stuff. And whenever one of those asynchronous things would happen, Angular would be listening to zones for saying like, oh, something asynchronous happened. Because that happened, I need to go check all of my bindings to see if any of those bindings changed. And if they did, I'll update the DOM. And there are some, over the, 10 years of Zone.js being that mechanism that worked for Angular applications, a lot of the like downsides to that really came up. And those downsides really became apparent when you had really large apps that have a lot of developers and a lot of UI. So just kind of enumerating them, Zone.js is about like 37 kilobytes of JavaScript that's on the critical path. So like Angular can't do anything until Zone.js is loaded. And so that's, 37 kilobytes. It's not huge, but it's also not nothing. There's the cost of actually patching all of those browser APIs. So that it does take some time for that JavaScript to run and like create the patch around set timeout and promise.then and all that. And it's going to vary on the specific device, how much time that takes. I think the last time I measured it on my own like Pixel 7 here as my test device, it was around like 55 milliseconds on a Pixel 7. On slower devices, it's going to take longer. On faster devices, it's going to be faster. But that's still like 50 milliseconds is a lot on your critical path. And that's expensive. Like you don't necessarily need to be paying that. If you've been writing Angular for a while, you know that Zone.js, it gets in your stack trace. And what we had made improvements over the years to this in terms of removing Zone.js frames out of your stack trace. And so that's a nice feature that Chrome has. But even then, right, it makes debugging a little bit more difficult because you have these layers of indirection in your code where things are getting called through zones rather than just like your event listener. It leads to situations where your unit tests are not as representative as your production code as they could be, because in your production code, you're using Zone.js to drive things happening and change detection. But in your tests, you're actually manually calling like detect changes. And that is different, right? Like your tests are not doing the same thing that your production code is doing. And so that can lead to situations where your tests are not giving you all of the confidence that you could have in the, whether or not your code is doing what you expect it to. And so like for all of these reasons and more, one last thing I'll mention is that zones can't patch the native await keyword. There's nothing to patch. It's a syntax and not an API. And so it just fundamentally does not work with the await keyword, which means that Angular applications always have to down level await to a promise.then, which is not, it's fine, but it's not ideal. And so for all of these reasons and some more I probably didn't get into, we wanted to move to a system that that was not based on zones. And so kind of what is the complication to that? It means that you can no longer really depend on zones to let you know when something might have happened. You have to actually know when something happened. You have to have some other mechanism that tells Angular like, hey, something has happened and you should see if the DOM needs to be updated. And that is where signals come in. By using signals to track your state, Angular knows whenever a signal is read somewhere and whenever a signal is written. And so when you write a bunch of signals, Angular knows that that has happened, and it can schedule a check to see like, okay, do I need to update the DOM because the state has changed? And so one of the nice side effects of this is that signals can be generally like a little bit more performant because they only have to run when something has actually changed instead of when something might have changed, which is actually a lot of the time with zones, right? There's a lot of cases where something might have changed, but it didn't. And Angular didn't actually have to run that change detection at all. And so signals makes that a lot more straightforward. Signals also gives you kind of new capabilities that you didn't have before, separate from Zone. And so, that is kind of improvements that are kind of related to going zoneless, but not strictly tied to it. It's also worth mentioning, like, you can do zoneless as well without using signals. There's some other stuff you have to do that involves like, using the change detector ref and making sure you're calling mark for check in certain situations. But in general, like if you use signals, you just don't have to worry about it. It's what we consider to be like the best preferred developer experience for using zoneless. And so to like really go back and answer the original question that I've been rambling on is like, what is the architecture change? The like biggest architecture change is that you need to be more explicit about your state tracking and do that in such a way that the framework can know when something may have changed instead of it being automatic. based on zones. And so you do have to be a little bit more mindful about state, but it comes with a range of benefits by getting rid of those kind of negative downsides that zones had.
Well, I'll say one thing though, like in fairness to zones, one of the things that it provided for us, especially early on before like the sharp edges came around, was just the fact that you didn't have to think about a lot of these things. So it made sense as like a value add. With value proposition at the time made a ton of sense. It was like, yeah, you don't have to think about this, right? You could just update properties, because when I used to teach React to developers, they'd always get hung up on set state because they do all this like change and they make all these state adjustments. And then they're like, nothing's changed on my screen. And they're like, oh, did you use set state? And this isn't a complaint about React. I'm just saying, like, this was the thing that would catch people up. So in Angular, thinking about it from the point of view of, I don't have to do anything. I just make changes to the state of my application, or events fire off, and it will handle it. That's a really nice, like, value proposition.
Yeah, and like it's a trade-off, right? Like we talk about this from time to time. Like all of software engineering is about trade-offs. And with Zoneless, we are explicitly making a trade-off that like you do have to think about your state a little bit more, keep your state in signals. You're not just using raw properties. You have to think about it more. But the benefit you're getting from that is like you don't have to load Zone.js. You're getting rid of that 37 kilobytes. You're losing the upfront cost of the monkey patching. You are making your debugging easier. You're making your tests be more representative of your environment. Like all of these things stack up. And when we like look at the ledger of like pros and cons, we think that the set of pros for getting rid of zones far outweighs the cons, especially when you start including like the additional capabilities you get from signals in terms of having things like computed and being able to do effects. Those are capabilities that Angular just didn't have before. And they give you tools to do things kind of more elegantly that you didn't have before, right? Like if you wanted to like do something when some state changed before, you would be like using the ng on changes lifecycle hook and like looking at the inputs in that and seeing what's changed, where with effect and computed, that just becomes much easier.
Okay. Real quick, two things I need from you, friends. Start our GitHub repository. We're super close to 100K. If everybody who's watching this stream, according to our live view counter, if everybody who's watching stars the repository, we'll probably cross over into 100K. And then somebody asked a question about what will happen. So we have Michael Small says, the Angular repo hits 100K stars. Would either of you sing a song? Let me tell you something about performing music on this stream. Believe it or not, I went and purchased an audio mixer to use for this stream. And I was ready to set it up Wednesday, only to get it opened to find out that the power supply that is proprietary was not in the box. And I was devastated because I was literally ready. I had been thinking about how I'm going to play guitar on stream for you folks, and I was ready for this. So totally, we will do some musical thing if we hit 100K stars. And I'm going to return the mixer. I just haven't had time because, yeah, I don't know. We've been busy. We've been doing a lot of stuff. The Angular team has been like busy. It's so busy that I usually ping Jeremy like multiple times, like a day with like random thoughts, and I've been too busy to do that. Like I haven't been asking that much about video games. I'm like, no, I don't have time to be doing that. He had enough time to be answering me. So, but definitely star repo.
Yeah, for a while, Mark was just messaging me every day with his updates on his progress in Clair Obscure Expedition 33.
Yeah, I was. It was exciting. And then I was like, I don't even have time to like think about that game right now. I have so much work to do. We all have work to do. Everyone's busy. So it's not saying that we're special. I'm just saying, but the Angular team is definitely busy. All right, very exciting. Here, friends, something else I want to call out real quick before we continue answering questions. Mark will sing for sure. Look, Mark will sing all the time. I will always sing. I have no problem with that. I put a link here to Evgeny's blog, which is awesome. Actually, I was able to skim it real quick and get to read the whole thing. I was able to skim it. So if you want to see, because he commented that he had written about the things that we're talking about today. So if you want just some extra additional context, additional things you want to do, Evgeny has been a fantastic Angular developer for a long time and a really huge contributor to like just knowledge in the community, which I really appreciate. We really appreciate. So check out this blog. The link is in the comments. It's on the screen right now. But I think if you go to medium.com/@ Evgeny Oz, you'll be able to see his like publications and see what he's written about. Okay, Jeremy, let's do more questions.
Back to questions. All right. I'm still focusing on zoneless questions. Let's see here. Gus asked, to migrate to zoneless, do all of my applications dependencies need to migrate to it?
Ooh.
So if any of your dependencies do have a strict dependency on zone itself, then yes. So for example, if you're using a component library that depends on the functionality of zone, such as like ngZone onStable, then yeah, you would need like that to be zoneless as well. We did have to do some work in Angular Material, for example, and Angular CDK to make sure they were compatible with zoneless and not doing anything that would like require the full application to be zoneless. So there is some like any Angular code can be written such that it depends on zone. And so if you're depending on that, that said, I suspect the majority of libraries out there don't do anything that is strictly tied to zones. At most, they might be running like ngZone run outside Angular. And if they're doing that, that's fine. That just becomes a no-op. So the answer to this is like, yes, but hopefully most of the time it's not actually an issue. Let's see here. When we were talking about OnPush, we got a question here of like, could you set that via an injection token so you don't have to add the property to all of the component decorators? And this is a good question because this comes up a lot for anytime we add a new configuration to Angular, whether it's change detection, whether it's standalone, what are some other configurations we've added? I forget what they are. People always want to know like, why can't I just set a global option for this? And there's a couple of reasons for this. One is because if you have dependencies that are not in your project, those dependencies may have been written in such a way where they're not expecting to work under that configuration. So for example, like change detection strategy is a really good one because it's very easy to author a component that will not work in OnPush. And if you then try to set the entire application to OnPush, that component will be broken. And so for things like that, it is actually really important to set it on the component itself so that the component is declaring from the component author, like I'm OnPush capable or I'm not. And that can apply to like any kind of configuration we add. The other part of this is that when you publish Angular libraries to NPM, they are published in what we call like a partially compiled state. So like Angular components are compiled, right? Like those templates get compiled to JavaScript instructions before they run in your browser. And sometimes these options that are in the component decorator influence the code that is generated. And it can be like problematic or sometimes even impossible to push that code generation to the like end application because it would be much more expensive, which is why we do this kind of partial compilation step as part of the publishing process for Angular libraries. And the option that's set needs to be known at that time of publish for the partial compilation. Cool. So let's see, what else do we have?
I have a lot of we have seriously a lot of questions.
Yeah, so there was a question here from Harshu about zoneless. I think we covered a lot of this already.
Yeah.
But one thing I will mention is I mentioned there's some performance upsides. Today, most of those performance upsides come from not loading Zone.js, which generally has positive characteristics in not loading the library, not doing the monkey patching, and doing less work on each individual change detection. Angular is still doing the same style of change detection that it was before in terms of like which components get change detection. It's just a matter of like when they get change detection is different. In the future, we would like to move to a model where change detection happens more granularly and only in the components that have direct dependencies on signals that have been edited. That is a like future follow-up to the signals and zoneless work that we've done so far.
Jeremy, you know, one thing that I wanted to try, and this is related to zoneless and what we're talking about. So for our Firebase Angular Fire plugin, currently that is built around zoneless in mind because of the nature of the asynchronous updates that come from the server with your data updates, for example. So now I'm wondering, could developers use this standard library now with zoneless, right? Because asynchronous stuff is no longer kind of bound, you know, or you see what I'm saying? They don't have this idea of worrying about zones. So I wonder if we could just get it working with the standard library.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that I'd have to look into this because I'm not super familiar with the Angular Fire library. It's mostly written by the Firebase team.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there was anything going on in there that was specifically like meant to like work with zones. It was more to just give you like ArcGIS observables, which, you know, at the time were kind of the most common way people would deal with data in Angular applications. And it would also give you like Angular services that you could just inject. So kind of give you more idiomatic Angular surfaces for those Firebase APIs instead of the kind of more generic. You could always have used the just generic Firebase APIs in an Angular app. You just weren't kind of getting those extra Angular idiomatic things. Insofar as zoneless goes, I think it's really going to be the same with both.
Yeah, I want to confirm this because I did have some conversations with the other engineers a while ago, and maybe I'm misremembering that, but I feel like I remember some conversations around having to work around zones because of the way the async updates are coming. But I could be completely wrong about this, so I want to follow up with some of the Firebase engineers on this because I just think, you know, I know there's some friction right now for developers when there's a new version of Angular. There's a little bit of a gap sometimes between the supported version of Angular and supported version of Angular Fire. And if they can just use whatever library, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's the best way forward. I'm not trying to make a technical decision on stream in front of everybody. I was just chatting about it because I think it's interesting to think about how zones expands our abilities.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
if
zoneless expands our abilities.
yeah, like it's separate from zoneless. It would be nice if there was like a Firebase resource, similar to how we have like HTTP resource now.
Oh,
That would be convenient. I don't know that it's necessary. It's just kind of like a nice little quality of life thing, but
sure.
that would be a nice thing to have.
Sure. Let's get to some more questions. Let's
Yeah,
see. Any plans to deprecate lifecycle hooks in favor of signal APIs?
that was the one I was going to highlight.
I know.
And so this was actually part of the original plan. If you go back and read our Signal RFC from a couple of years ago, the idea back then was to have some like similar to how we have like standalone or change detection strategy, have a flag in the component decorator that was like signals true. And when you set signals true, the plan was to make it so that none of the lifecycle hooks were there anymore. Like they wouldn't work, or they would be like a compile error if you used any of the hooks except for on init and on destroy. Those still make sense. But for on changes and do check and all the like on content init and after view checked, right? All of those, like those are unnecessary. In a world where your application is all on signals and you're zoneless, none of those lifecycle hooks are necessary anymore. You can just forget about them. And we wanted to get to a place where you can have a kind of component that enforces this, where you're saying like, yes, I'm enforcing that this component is using signals and it's not using these lifecycle hooks and it's not using, you know, the @input decorator or anything like that. We don't have any plans right at this moment to prioritize adding that flag, mostly because we're spending that time thinking instead about kind of more like big picture what the authoring experience for Angular. So we've talked about this a number of times before of like in the context of selectorless components. Like what does an Angular component look like when you can just reference the component directly instead of going through this indirect CSS selector? And so we're kind of thinking about like, how does that also fit in with having a component that is like all the way based on signals? And, there's some other things we're considering as part of this as well. It's like, what if the template didn't have this like special Angular expression syntax, which is like, it's JavaScript, but it's also like a little bit of its own thing because it supports pipes and it has this like $any function, right? Like there's some stuff there where like the expressions in Angular templates are a little bit weird. And we're also asking like, what does it look like if that's just like a little bit more standard? And so all of these together are, we're thinking about how do we have that component authoring experience that is a little bit more tailored to this, modern version of Angular. And, I'll be transparent, like we don't have that answer yet. We're still kind of talking through it and what that looks like. But when we do know, we'll share.
All right, Jeremy, let's do one more question and then I think we can wrap for the day. Get our friends back to their schedules and get you back to your schedule and myself. Let's do one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Oh, let's see. I have to pick a good one.
Unless you want to do a speed round where you do like a few more, you do speed round.
Yeah, I'll do a speed round and try to answer a few real quick.
Okay.
Gabriel asked, things like async pipes and inputs, are they still going to work auto magically? Kind of, right? Like as long as you are, if you're using signals, then like, yes, as long as you're like reading and writing values out of signals, everything should just work and you don't have to worry about it. There's a question here. Is RxJS being completely optional at newer Angular versions? It is a long-term goal of ours to make RxJS fully optional for Angular. We're not there today. It's still a hard dependency for the router, and I believe it's still a hard dependency for core. We'd like to get to a point where it's optional. Even though it's optional with signals and our RxJS interop package, we want to make that RxJS integration better than it ever has been for the people who do choose to use it. But long-term goal, it's going to take us a while to get there just because it is kind of very deeply built into a lot of the libraries. And there's a question, do the Angular and Lit team share ideas? We don't really chat that often. I think a lot of Lit development is now happening outside of Google instead of inside of Google. But I've definitely, I've looked a lot at Lit, and I think there's some very cool things they're doing with that. And so I would say we draw like inspiration from it in the same way that we draw inspiration from what every other web framework does. We look at Svelte, we look at Vue, we look at React, we look at Solid, and from all of these, we're saying like, what are the good ideas? What are the ideas that we think will work well with Angular, and how can we spin that? That is the beauty of open source, is that we all get to like learn from each other and take the best ideas and keep iterating. And the very yeah, I think maybe we can leave it at that because the rest of these are maybe a little bit longer.
All right, so tell me this, Jeremy, what are you playing, watching, reading this week?
Playing, I told myself I can't play Silksong until I finish my talk for Cascadia.js.
Okay.
But I've been playing Divinity Original Sin 2 with my partner. We've been playing the couch co-op of that, and that's been fun. It's a game from like 7 years ago at this point.
Sure.
I've been rereading the Old Man's War series by John Scalzi in anticipation of the new book in that series coming out later this month. It's been years since I read it, and so I'm going through and doing a reread of all of those books just to refresh.
I like John Scalzi. Didn't John Scalzi make the what's the one with the lock-in syndrome? Locked in and
lock-in.
I love that book, actually. I listened to that book twice.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
I like that a lot too. I generally like most of what Scalzi writes. But yeah, I'm doing a reread of that. I'm enjoying it a lot. And what am I watching? I think the only like actual TV show I'm watching other than Dropout is Sakamoto Days on Netflix.
Very cool.
What about you, Mark?
This week, reading Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Just about his like childhood in South Africa. Very fascinating. Playing a little bit of actually Killer Instinct 1994 SNES version. Been playing that with my son a ton. I got him the original strategy guide for his birthday recently, and so we've been playing that, and it's really cool for him to like remember the days before you could look up all the like moves on the internet, and he has this like actual magazine that was from 1994 that I got off of eBay, which is really great. So I've been playing that, and then of course Clay Obscure Expedition 33. I am like in the middle of Act 3, so now I'm kind of going on and fighting all the like baddies now that I've had some mixed. You get some more abilities to help you go further, right, and to explore the world. So now that I can do some more things, I'm going to fight some more people. Grinding through some impossible fights. That's been great. And then finally, what have I been watching? The show that surprised me the most was Peacemaker season 1 on HBO. I didn't expect it to be as interesting and as well acted as it is. I mean, sure, it's not like Oscar acting, but I didn't expect to really like John Cena's performance as much. He brings some nuance and character to that show that is surprising to me, not expected. And it's like, oh, wait, you're like excellent at this.
Yes. Oh, you just reminded me. I forgot one thing. I got COVID about like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And while I had COVID, I watched all of The Bear.
Oh, rad.
From start to finish. And John Cena does do a cameo in The
Yes,
Bear,
he does.
which made me think of it. Really good show. And I've heard people say it's really stressful, and I definitely see that. But I really enjoyed The Bear. It was good.
Yeah, The Bear is, for me as a creative person, just an amazing watch because the cinematography, the colors, the writing, everything is just incredible. But that is for a different podcast, and maybe one day Jeremy and I will start that. We'll talk about the things that we like and that we're really into, and some like shows and stuff. That actually be fun, Jeremy. We should consider that. Just a fun little podcast where we just talk about art and games and movies and just what we're really into. This is great. Okay, friends. Do not forget. Last things as we're getting ready to wrap this up. Last thing. Don't forget this. We have the Explore the World Possibilities Angular Developer AI event. You definitely want to be there. Going to be really, really fun. It would mean the world to us if you came and hung out and let us know what you thought. Interact is going to be live, not pre-recorded. This one is live. Also, if you have a chance, do us a big, huge favor. Help us on our march to 100,000 stars on GitHub by starring our main GitHub repository. If everybody did it, for who's watching this stream right now, we will be on the other side of 100K. That'll mean a lot to us. We really would love that. But that's what we would really love, Jeremy. You know what we really, really love? If people,
Mark.
I'm gonna tell you, if people got out there, chose a technology, and built great apps. We'll see you the next time.